Hey, family, this is Dr. William Clark, your host of the Dr. William Clark podcast. Glad to be with you for another episode. This is the podcast that is geared towards nonprofit leaders, and we consider ourselves really a hub for nonprofit professionals and leaders and change makers who are seeking to make a remarkable impact on the world. And if you're ever looking to learn about nonprofit stuff and you're new to this world and new to this arena, we welcome you into this space. Now, today, I want to talk about this idea of what to expect when raising money from individuals. And this can be new for a lot of people because they are entering to this space, whether they are new to the nonprofit world, they're looking to expand their nonprofit footprint, or they're looking to do something dramatically different in their fundraising. And so, want to talk to you a little bit about what to expect when raising money from individuals, specifically looking at the annual giving preferences of individuals that you may be targeting for support. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that and we'll get into it. This particular episode is brought to you by drwilliampclark.com. And this is the website where you can go to get any resource you need for developing your nonprofit organization. We do encourage you to go to that website. It is a link based website where you can access all types of tools, resources, etc. And we've designed them specifically for nonprofit leaders. So, again, go to drwilliampclark.com. Now, on that website, we do want you to take a look at our latest course, Fundraising Basics for Nonprofits. Some of the stuff that we're going to cover today, we will go deeper into this particular course. And I think this course is really going to be helpful for everyone who is looking to learn about fundraising, strengthen their fundraising approaches, become more intelligent and strategic about your fundraising. And again, we're going to cover some of this stuff today. But if you want more detail and you want to study this thing for yourself to advance your nonprofit and its fundraising efforts, go to drwilliampclark.com. Again, you can access our latest course, Fundraising Basics for Nonprofits, at drwilliampclark.com. Now, let's talk about what to expect when raising money from individuals. I want to share this resource with you. We're going to be sharing parts of the report that was released by Giving USA. It's their latest special report, and it was published this year. That was designed to help all of us who are interested in learning about fundraising and strengthening our fundraising to learn a little bit more about our customers and the individuals that we are serving. Now, as we get ready to share this screen, I do want to encourage you to take a look at this report, download it for yourself, explore it for yourself so that you can get a sense of what to expect, right? Because at the end of the day, it really is incumbent upon you, me, and others to figure out how to learn about our customer, how to understand our customer, how to service our customers. Our customers, at the end of the day, and we have several, and we know this in the nonprofit arena, we have several customers at the end of the day, but specifically the customer that we're talking about today are our donors. They are very, very intelligent. And so we need to understand how they're thinking and how they're looking at this work and how they're approaching this work. And so we want to make sure that we are helpful, or actually, we want to make sure that we actually are understanding how they are understanding their own giving. We need to understand how they are approaching giving. You want to understand their mindset around giving. And so as we get ready to share here, let me just share the right screen here so that we can get this going. All right. Yeah. I want to make sure we share the right screen here so that we can get this going. So we just need to make sure that we are fully aware of our customer, aware of their giving habits and their preferences. And so let's jump into this report. So again, this is the Giving USA special report, Giving by Generations, and they're specifically looking at examining the shifts in giving among donor generations. We're going to look at portions of this report over the next couple of podcasts. So this is going to be part of a series, and I want to make sure that all of us are going to go through this education process together. But specifically, I want to start off here at with this first piece of data. Find this very fascinating. Let's start here. This is where we're going to focus our attention today. Annual giving by generation, right? What's the annual giving by generation? Now, why does this particular information matter? This information matters because if you're new to raising money from individuals, or if you're looking to shift gears in your individual giving campaign, or you're looking to learn more about a new demographic you want to fundraise from, it's going to be super important for you to learn about the giving preferences or the giving habits of the generation you are looking to raise money from. Now, I did have this information pulled up. Let me just pull this up. Generation breakdown by age and name. All right. So I want to make sure we have this information here so that we know who we're talking about when we talk about the various generations. So let's go through this data. Now, there are four different generations that are listed here in this particular chart for you listening on the podcast. The first generation will be the baby boomers. And depending on the data you're looking at, there are two groups of baby boomers, but we're going to group them together for the sake of this podcast. The next group is Generation X, Millennials, and then finally Gen Z. So the age breakdown for baby boomers, and we're going to do baby boomers 1 and 2, will be they were born between the years 1946 and 1964. That means that they are between the ages of 59 and 77. Gen X, they were born between the years of 1965 and 1980. They are between the ages of 43 and 58. Millennials were born between the years of 1981 and 1996. That means they are between the ages of 27 and 42. Lastly, Generation Z was born between the years of 1997 and 2012. They are currently between the ages of 11 and 26. Now, of course, depending on when you're listening to this podcast and the year you're in, those ages will increase, but that's the current ages as of right now. So, on this chart, we are looking at data that compares giving annual giving habits from 2006 in comparison to giving habits of 2022. Let's start with the baby boomers. We'll notice here in 2026, 2016, and 2022 that baby boomers, by and large, have the largest giving capacity amongst all the groups. There are several reasons for this, but let's just focus on the fact that they are the largest giving group there is. And again, for those of you who are looking to raise money from this particular group, if that's your target giving market, they are between the ages of 59 and 77. So in 2016, baby boomers were giving on average annually $2,921 per. Now, this data doesn't break down whether it's by individual or by household, but I think it's important to probably assume in this particular data set is by household, right? Because most households are giving together. And let's do that for all the data here. Per household, they were giving $2,921, nearly $3,000 of their income they were giving in 2016. 2022, post COVID, post real estate economic boom, etc. They are now giving reportedly $2,568. Now, this is a decrease of $353 or a decrease of 12%. Even though they are giving less by just a little over $350, they are still the highest giving group in 2022. Gen Xers in 2016, they were giving $1,265. As of 2022, they are now giving $1,220, a decrease of $45 or a decrease of 4%. Let's take a look at millennials. We're giving in 2016 $942. They're now giving $1,323. This is a $381 dollar increase, a plus 40% giving percentage. And so they are clearly the ones who are spiking in their giving. They crossed the $1,000 threshold and they are giving more than Gen X, but not as much as baby boomers. And then we have Gen Z. Gen Z, there was no recorded data, for 2016, but their starting point is $747. So it's pretty solid for 11 to 26-year-olds who are giving at this point in time in their lives. Now, what does this data tell you, and how does this data impact you as a fundraiser, as a person who is leading fundraising in your organization, or a person who is responsible for fundraising within your organization? Well, this data tells you, number one, you have to figure out who you're going to be targeting for your giving campaign. Now, there will be many cases where you're going to overlap between two generations, possibly three generations, because if you look at, again, let's look at the age breakdown. If you look at Gen Z, 11 to 26, millennials, 12, 27 to 42, Gen X, 45 to 53, it is possible that you can be serving or raising money between millennials, Gen Xers, Gen Z millennials, or Gen Xers and baby boomers, because of there are some overlapping interests and desires that motivate these groups to give. Regardless of how you're going to break down your giving, and what groups you're going to overlap with, it is important for you to think about which groups you're going to raise money from, because the mentality, the approach to giving, the approach to life, the approach to supporting organizations and specific causes vary between the groups. This is covered in the Giving USA report in terms of what each generational group supports. So if you are targeting a group that doesn't generally support the area of service that you're in, or isn't necessarily into giving, or maybe you're a faith-based organization and the generation that you're targeting isn't into that type of giving, it's going to impact the decision that you have to make in terms of who you want to target in your giving. So it's going to be important for you to explore much more deeply which of these groups you're going to target for your giving, so that you can have a very specific marketing approach, messaging approach, and sales approach to each of these groups. Now, this is a challenge for everyone, because in fundraising, just like any other business, fundraising is how we sell. One of the ways we sell our services. We sell our services by packaging the stories of our work, our forecast for the future, and letting our potential donors know, hey, you can support us because of these reasons. We've done well, we performed well, we hit these targets, and we have this big, bold vision for the future. Now, how you sell it and how you package it does depend upon who you're selling to. For example, if you're looking at the Gen Z, 11 to 26-year-olds, they are very much into freedom. They're very much into giving people space and capacity to grow, to be themselves. So if you're not talking about your vision within that framework, then you might be missing the boat with Gen Z. On the other side, baby boomers and a little bit of the Gen Xers, they're not necessarily into the same things Gen Zs are. They are into more traditional cultural references of American culture. And so you got to be aware of that and how they are looking at life, particularly as they're getting up in age. Their kids are grown, their grandkids are now here. They're looking at their legacy. What do you want to sell to them to generate their support, or to have them feel comfortable supporting you financially? Another thing to think about too when it comes to giving, this is less about the cash here, because this cash is a reference to actual cash given by individuals out of their own pocket. But you want to think about too, when you're raising money from foundations and institutions and corporations and the persons who are responsible for releasing those dollars, they're going to fall within one or more of these categories by age, right? So these individuals who are making these decisions, while the dollars they control are much greater than what you see here, but what it does tell you is that the philosophy of giving, the approach of giving, may be impacted by generation. While they will be guided by the giving principles of the institution, the giving principles of the foundation, the giving principles of the corporation, there still may be cultural influences and impacts that will drive them to behave in their giving decisions one way or another, depending on how you approach them. Now, as we look at this data, 26 to 22, you want to make sure you are aware and sensitive to the giving differences between the groups. Again, you look at Gen Z, they are just now entering into their giving phase of their lifespan. $747 per person per household is really a starting point for them. They're early in their careers. If you look at folks between the ages of 18 and 26, which is within the Gen Z age range, they're just now working. Many of them are probably in school, some sort of 4 year, 2 year college, or they're in trade school. Some of them have graduated from those institutions, are now starting their careers. Some may have significant student loan debt that they are paying back. And so their giving is not going to be as high in comparison to baby boomers who, we can make some assumptions, don't have the same bills as Gen Z. Now, when you're looking at Gen Z, how are you going to approach them to generate support for their $747? What is it that they care about? What is it that they want to give to? And if their dollar giving or their cash capacity is that low, they might be either judicious with their giving. And you cannot assume, before I go into this next part, you can't assume that you're going to get exactly $747 from every Gen Z member of that generation. So you got to assume that they're going to be judicious in the giving. They're going to be sparse in the giving. $1 here, $5 here, $10 here, $20 here. Maybe if you hit the right notes, you might get more than that, right? You may hit the $50 or $100 gift for the Gen Z individual. But what is it that they want to hear? What is it that they need to hear to generate their support? The other thing I want to highlight too about giving, when you look at this giving chart, and we talked a little bit about this with the Gen Z, you don't know the per gift, the amount per gift they're giving. This is not covered in the report, but it just simply says they give on average $747 on an annual basis. And you don't know if they're giving 10, 20, 50, $100 per gift, and they're spreading that 747 out, or if it's given a majority to one group or institution or another. So since you don't know that information, you're going to have to learn this information out in your local market to learn the giving behaviors of the generation that you're targeting so that you can understand how to generate support and how to position your organization as best as you can. So when you look at baby boomers, you can't just assume that you're going to approach a baby boomer, sell them an idea of your nonprofit, and get $2,500 and $2,568. Can't assume that. They may be giving 500 at a time, $350 at a time, $200 at a time per group per ask. So this begs the question, who are you going to target and why? When you answer those questions, then you can answer the question, well, how many members of each generation I'm targeting will I need to uh, touch base with, engage with, in order to move them through the process of giving so that I can have my end result of the number of donors we want to be a part of our organization, and will result, which that number will result in a cash amount at the end of the day. All right. This is a conversation about strategy, right? If you want to incorporate, add, or augment your individual giving campaign, you got to have a strategy in place so that you can have the right approach when approaching individuals from each of these generations. Now, I really do hope that you find this particular piece of information helpful. And again, we covered the details of how to look at each household, different strategies that you can use to engage each individual in their giving in my course, Fundraising Basics for Nonprofits. This is a super helpful piece of data Giving USA has shared with us. But at the end of the day, what I would like for you to take away from this, is this idea of how to understand the giving habits of each generation, to understand how different they are by each generation, and for you to think about and to learn really what are the giving amounts per organization by each generation you can expect from these generations. And if you don't know this information, you can do some research. You can ask around from other organizations, other folks who've been in this space for quite some time who can help you understand this data. And you can also learn by trial and error, which is also helpful because, particularly if you're new, if your nonprofit is new, if your nonprofit is evolving and growing, you may be in a situation where you don't have this information at all. You don't know where to turn. One of the best things you can do while you're learning is to try, is to test ideas out now. Take this information that we're sharing today and start to figure out how you can be a part of this, how you can learn from this, how you mine out this data. What can I learn from Gen Zs, Millennials, Gen Xers, and baby boomers? Another strategy here is to look at people in your family, people in your church, people in your network who fall within these age categories. Find out how much they give to charitable causes. This also includes faith based organizations and churches, and to see what their annual giving is. And to ask them, well, if you give this amount on an annual basis, how many organizations do you share that amount with? And how much do you give on average to each organization on an annual basis? This can be a test case for you to understand giving habits, giving behaviors within a specific community. Now, the other thing I want to say before we kind of transition off this topic, it's one thing to talk about baby boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, and Gen Zs, right? And so it's important for you to understand generally what this information is saying. Now, what I want you to also understand too is this. I want you to understand that the specifics of this data is also going to be relevant based upon where you live, so your geography, your city, your state, your community, your region. All that information will be augmented based upon your geography. So the idea of assessing this information by looking at people within your community who are giving, family, friends, members of your network, members of churches, members of groups, members of your sorority and fraternity. Start to ask those critical questions. Put together a survey group. Matter of fact, it might be a great idea for you to put together a listening party or an education party or an information party where you're going to introduce the idea of your nonprofit. And instead of raising money, you can focus on raising ideas, raising data, raising information, right? It is so worth it to gather that information before you start asking people for their financial support. Put together a listening party, invite 10, 20, 30 people to come for drinks and food so you can share your vision, but also to learn. Ask a series of targeted questions so that you can not only learn from individuals, but what you'll find out is that people will begin to share based upon the information they're hearing from other people in the room. And that will give you a starting point to understand the giving behaviors and the giving habits based upon this data and how real it is and how you can put it to good use in your fundraising campaign. From there, start to put together and start to strategize your approach to raising money from individuals, because it's going to make a significant difference as you look at giving based upon your region and your geography. Look, folks, I hope you found this information helpful. I hope you're exploring this information. And I hope that you're putting together these approaches to raise money for your worthy cause, because we need you to learn how to fundraise so that you can keep doing the good work that you're doing. It's a beautiful thing about the nonprofit arena. It's the mission, it's the cause, it's the purpose, it's the people that we're serving. But we can't do that if we don't have money to make that happen. Now, if you want to speak with me, if you want to schedule consultation with me, or if you just simply want to take my course, Nonprofit Basics, Fundraising Basics for Nonprofits, simply go to my website, drwilliampclark.com. Click on that top link on my website. It'll take you directly into the registration page for that course. In that course, we go into detail about some of what you heard today. You'll learn about strategies behind fundraising. You'll learn about the three phases of fundraising, the three strategies of fundraising. You learn about the different tips and tricks you can use right now to raise money for your worthy cause. This is Dr. William Clark for the Dr. William Clark podcast. We'll see you guys next time. See everybody. Be well.